Mystery in the Moonlight, written by Abigail Lumering, illustrated by Tab Butler. Chapter 1. Nico and Isabel Lubies were twins, but other than being born on the same day, they were almost nothing alike. They were fraternal twins, not identical twins. Nico was solidly built and handsome, with a mane of curly hair like his father's. Isabel was smaller, with striking green eyes, a sprinkle of freckles on her nose, a long straight hair like her mother's. Since the day they were born, Nico had been the thoughtful, quiet one, while Isabel spun the world with adventure and mischief. They were as different as night and day, but their personalities complemented each other's perfectly. They made friends easily, but like most twins, they remained closest to each other. It had been a long, full summer in the neighborhood. Grady and Jessica Peterson, the twins' good friends who lived up the street, had built a huge tree house in the yard. Almost everyone on the block had slept over at least once, eating s'mores and telling stories late into the warm night. The scarier the better. With the tree house, Grady and Jessica had been the center of attention that summer for sure. Most kids, Nico and Isabel included, were now hatching plots to get the parents to build tree houses too. The only other big news was that the house across the street, the one that had been vacant since last spring, had finally sold. A new family had moved in, and Mr. Lubis had heard from the real estate agency that they were named Bradford and that they had a 10-year-old son named Andrew. This was great, except that no one had gotten so much as a glimpse of him. In fact, the whole Bradford family seemed absolutely invisible. One afternoon, Isabel and Nico were playing in the front yard when an enormous truck from Draperies, etc., pulled up in front of the Bradford's house. The twins tried to be casual about glancing over at the house while workers raided every window treatment, putting up both blinds and drapes. Once they were done, not a thing could be seen inside. I guess they like their privacy, Nico said. That's strange, Isabel said. I was hoping to meet the boy who lives there, maybe play some kickball, but I've never seen him at all. Isabel was good at kickball and never missed an opportunity to recruit fresh players. Nico chuckled, knowing how frustrating it must be for Isabel not to be able to make friends right away. I think there's something odd about that family, she said. Chapter 2. Another night, when the moon was full, Isabel quietly but urgently knocked at Nico's bedroom door. Isabel's late. What's up with you? Nico asked. Isabel had her binoculars in her hand, and she climbed to Nico's bed to peek out his window. Shh! Andrew Bradford is outside, Isabel whispered. Nico peered through the binoculars and saw Andrew Bradford climbing the old oak tree in a Bradford's yard. This certainly seems like a funny time to be out climbing trees, if you ask me, Isabel said. Nico looked around the yard and saw Andrew's parents sitting at the patio table, happily playing cards by moonlight. Isabel looked very intent and a little mysterious. Do you think it's strange that the Bradfords are never outside during the daytime and that all the windows are covered? You've seen this creepy horror movie just like I have. Do all these coincidences sound familiar? Nico rolled his eyes. Maybe they work at night, Isabel. I don't know. I'm sure there's a logical explanation. Nico, that kid hasn't come out even the daylight, even once since they moved in almost a month ago. Remember when we moved here? The first thing we did was check out the neighborhood for kids our age. You and Grady were best friends by the end of our first grade, remember? Isabel asked. Yeah, I do remember that, but some kids are just shy and it doesn't make them monsters. We could go over there and introduce ourselves, but let's just wait a day or so and see what happens. Okay, but I think something very weird is happening here, she leaned in to whisper in Nico's ear. Maybe it's even something spooky, and I think you've forgotten how to use your imagination. And that's okay, you've got enough imagination for both of us, Nico said. Isabel looked annoyed and a little hurt. She sighed and went back to her room. Chapter 3. The next few days were a blur of activity as school began, and everyone was busy settling into the new routines. That first morning at the bus stop, all the kids watched the Bradford house to see if Andrew would show. He didn't, and the Andrew mystery was soon lost in a shuffle of first day cheaters and finding out who everyone's teacher was going to be. The days were still long, however, so there was some evening playtime left for the tree house and for lazing around, time for finishing off the last of the wild blackberries. Talk turned once again to the mysterious Andrew Bradford and the latest signing of his Moonlight exposite. Theories were many and wild, but most focused on blood-sucking monsters of one kind or another. Chapter 4. On particular night, Nico, Isabel, Grady, and Jessica were playing a little twig-like kickball with other kids from the neighborhood. Isabel nailed one straight over their heads and into the Black Forest yard. Everyone looked toward the house in stunned silence. Well, whispered Isabel briefly, I guess I'll have to climb over there and get it. We'll find out once and for all if he's really a werewolf or vampire or what. That's okay, it's getting dark. Let's wait until tomorrow, suggested Grady, kicking the toe of the snipper into the ground and looking nervous. Jessica nodded, taking a step backward and looking at her watch. It's late, she mumbled. No, Isabel is right, Nico said, walking over and taking his sister's hand. I'll go with her, and we'll see what's going on. Nico and Isabel shared a glance they'd shared many times before. They would always be there for each other, no matter what. The last of the evening light were fading fast. As they cleared the fence that surrounded the Bradford's yard, they heard the familiar, high-pitched clattering of bats beyond the trees. The bats had begun their nightly hunt for food. They shared another glance. What is a sign? They clutched each other's hand tightly and headed for the far side of Bradford's property. There it is. Nico bent to retrieve the ball from between some shrubs. Then he returned and stared. Isabel was quickly walking away from him toward the open sliding door on the partial. Isabel, come back. Just as she reached the threshold, a boy about their age appeared. Wait, what? It doesn't work. Oh, come on. Is it fixed or something? I need to change it. Wait for a few minutes, okay? Because maybe it's just a matter of time or this. But I'll load it. Oh, come on, I don't have all day waiting for you. So I'll be waiting for another minute, and then maybe if it doesn't work, I need to start again, and that will be really frustrating. Oh, he's here. Hi there, squeaked Isabel, and then she drew herself up straight and said firmly, You must be Andrew. I'm Isabel Lupis, and that chicken over there is my twin brother, Nico. So much for loyalty, grumbled Nico. Andrew seemed at a loss for words, but he finally managed a small hello. He didn't look like a werewolf or a vampire or any kind of monster at all. He did have a whole lot of freckles, and he was covered with clothing from head to toe on one of the warmest nights of the year, but there was no fur or bloody fangs anywhere. Sorry to burst into your yard like this, but our ball went over the fence and Isabel's voice trailed off. Nico yelled from where he stood. My sister wanted to see if you were a vampire since you never come out in the daytime. Isabel threw her hands over her face with embarrassment, but Andrew just started to chuckle. Then the chuckle turned into a very loud, long laugh. Well, you're honest, aren't you? Let me go get my mom and dad. They're probably wondering who I'm talking to. Then we can tell you all about the big mystery. Mr. and Mrs. Bradford appeared a moment later. After introductions, the Bradfords explained the reason their family followed a different schedule. Andrew had a condition called XP. The XP stands for syndrome pigmentosa. His skin and eyes just can't tolerate light from the sun. He gets sunburned almost immediately, and it takes a long time to heal. Other than that, he's just like you in every day. That's why you might see us outside late in the evenings, enjoying things that are more fun without the complications of sunlight, Peter Pamford said. I'm pretty much a moonlight-only guy, Andrew added. It can make meeting other kids in a new place or a bit of challenge, especially in the summer. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you came. Isabel and Nico both smiled uncertainly at that. There was a lot to swallow all at once, but suddenly Isabel faded it up. Hey Andrew, since it's dark now, would you like to meet some more of the neighbors? There's this really cool tree house and we play cable land, Isabel babbled excitedly while Andrew's parents nodded with approval. She and Nico led Andrew toward his new friends. As the weeks passed, the sun began to set earlier in the evenings. That used to be one of the sad parts of autumn for Isabel and Nico, but now they had reason to look forward to it. Andrew Bradford's Moonlight Kickball games had become the treehouse attraction of the fall.
Good job.
This is kind of a really amazing story, but let's do the quiz. What does Isabel think her new neighbors are odd? Ever come outside and talk with anyone? The neighbors put up heavy drapes and blinds over every window. See, right? Or maybe all of the above. How are Nico and Isabel different from each other? Curly hair, active imagination. Nico is more logical. It's quite thoughtful. All of the above. What the main conflict of the story? The neighborhood kids are too shy to knock on the door of the new family house and meet the new boy. He's friends with the new boy, but his parents won't let him play with them. That doesn't make sense. The neighborhood kids cannot figure out what the new boy and his family still hid and how all they would come out at night. I see, right? Why do the neighborhood kids start telling stories about the Bradfords? To me, the Bradfords like to tell stories. Only during the night. No one has ever been able to meet the Bradfords. It does make sense, right? How do you think Jessica and Grady feel when they see Nico and Isabel walking back to them after getting the ball from Bradford's yard? Maybe curious? Why do Isabel and Nico decide to play Moonlight Kickball? Is to think about is better than treehouse. See? How do you think the neighborhood kids will treat in future? And playing with the kids, they will play with Andrew inside during the day and outside at night. Yeah. What are the fraternal twins? Siblings were born different days, siblings were born the same day but are not identical. Why does Edward chuckle when he first meets Isabel and Nico? How funny looking. How does Nico hurt Isabel's feelings?
You did it. Perfect.